Hello and welcome to Nerdarchy for Nerds by Nerds. I'm Nerdarchy Steve, and today I'm joined by Adam Bradford, now from DemiPlane.
Yeah.
It feels a little weird.
Yeah. It's got to kick the old habits there, I think.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
Well, welcome back. It's always been a pleasure to have you on and to chat.
always a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me. I mean, I would do this, just to shoot the breeze. So yeah, it's good to be on.
So I imagine most of the people that are going to watch this or that are watching now know who you are, but for those that don't, can you give me your quick bio?
Yeah, I'm Adam Bradford, and I am now the Chief Development Officer at DemiPlane, a startup that I've recently joined that's doing some really interesting things and much more to come. I was the founder of D&D Beyond and formerly the VP of Tabletop at Fandom before I left there recently. I guess it's been February. Yeah, February. Time is flying. I keep like blinking and a couple of
Yeah.
weeks go by. But yeah, so that's me. I play on some streamed games out there and have I think that probably the most important thing, been playing for I guess about 3 decades at this point. I don't think I'm quite up to your level of experience there, Dave, but
I think we're pretty close. I just look
pretty
really
close.
old.
Yeah. No, that's not what I meant. But yeah, it's just absolutely in love with this tabletop role playing thing to the point where it kind of ruins video games and everything else for me. So I don't. Most of the gaming that I do these days is tabletop role playing. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
Nice. So do you feel a little less constrained now? I mean, D&D Beyond was awesome and we still love using that tool, but really like it's all about D&D. Now like you can talk about I mean you started moving away from D&D and well not away, but adding Cortex. But
Yeah.
now it's like, Demiplane is kind of wide open.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting question, and I can probably answer it a couple of ways. First, I do absolutely I relish the opportunity to be able to have freedom to kind of jump into some other games out there because I love Dungeons and Dragons, and I love the fifth edition of Dungeons and Dragons. I've actually loved every edition of D&D that I've played, but there are other games out there, and I've enjoyed those for many years. I actually got my start playing Weston game Star Wars D6 version of that. That was my introduction to role playing, and so I've played every edition of Star Wars that's been out there. I've played every edition of Marvel that's been out there. Huge superhero fan. So, any kind of space fantasy, science fiction. I just got some beautiful, I actually got all Martian and Earth and Belter and Proto Molecule dice for the Expanse. So I want to play that really soon. So yeah, I love so many of these games, and there's so much to learn and so much to experience and so much to enjoy across so many of those. And so I do love at DemiPlane that we are supporting, the ideas to be as open and inclusive of all of those games as we possibly can. And so yeah, I definitely feel less constrained from that perspective. And I think that there's also just this idea that when you are there at the beginning of something like D&D Beyond, you get things started, and it was an incredible journey and a wonderful part of my life. It's been incredible to get to know fans out there. It's been it's really great to take a step back and look and say, hey, what we accomplished here was pretty mighty. But at the same time, 3 or 4 years into that, things are different. It's the life cycle of companies and the way that goes. And so I really kind of wanted to get to a point where I could get back to making things and making things happen. And I thought that DemiPlane was a perfect place to do that. And once I met Peter and Travis, who are the founders of DemiPlane, they are such good guys. Number one, just really have enjoyed getting to know them, and also they have a really really great vision for what is happening in the tabletop space and where we're going to go. And so I think, we've been able to form a Voltron that is really, really going to do a whole lot of stuff out there in the space. Can't quite talk about a lot of it so far, but we do have a lot of really big, grand plans, and I can't wait to see it happen.
Well, DemiPlane does have a bit of a strike against it. I'm going to be honest with you. Travis played for the Cowboys for a long time, right?
Yes,
and this
did.
is Eagles country over here.
Yeah, it was one of the first things I actually talked to him about, because I am a sports fan, and I follow football and baseball to a degree. I'm actually, basketball is probably my biggest fandom on the sports side. I used to play, believe it or not, I used to be able to dunk a basketball. That was many, many pounds lighter.
A lot of chicken wings ago.
A lot of chicken wings ago, absolutely. But yeah. So when I was first talking to Travis, in the heart of the NFL season, and just had a little bit of shade to throw for sure, the Cowboys way. But yeah, Travis, he's such a good guy. He was team captain there for the Cowboys. He's a born leader, and he definitely had Pro Bowl appearances, many Pro Bowl appearances. So he was a superstar center there for the Cowboys, and so yeah, it's I think the biggest challenge of making this move so far is that I've enjoyed getting to know Peter Romanesco and Travis Frederick so much, but because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to meet face to face, hang out, eat those aforementioned chicken wings. And so I can't wait until the Fauci ouchies get in everybody's arms, where we can we can get back together face to face
soon. I feel like end of this year, I guess stuff will open up. I don't know if it'll be too soon or not. Everyone will have to make that determination.
Yeah, we're definitely going to be keeping a close eye on it. Obviously Gen Con, moving dates, that one seems like that could potentially happen. So yeah, we're gonna have to see for sure, and definitely keep a finger on the pulse. But yeah,
I might experiment with PAX Unplugged.
Yeah, PAX Unplugged. Oh, I love that show anyway, and that's pretty close to you anyway. And
it's like. Like that one, like we feel morally obligated to attend. And also, if things aren't working out, we can just bail easily on that one.
Yeah, absolutely. You don't have to, feel as bad that you just wasted, $1,000 in air travel or whatever else. Like, yeah. I think that Unplugged has become one of the best shows out there, though. Like I really, really have loved what has happened with PAX Unplugged, because I go to the other PAXs, and I again, I'm not trying to cast this kind of shade out there. I don't know if it's because the other PAXs have such a strong video game focus that it makes them less enjoyable or what, but the fact that Unplugged has just that tabletop focus, it really just that these are your people that are there, and the amount of games that are being played. I love that you can just walk through that giant kind of vendor area and the open play area, and you just run into people all the time that and everybody's sitting down and playing games, and you can just get into pickup games just like that. So Unplugged is really kind of coming on strong and becoming one of the better shows of the year.
Yeah, it's like 20 minutes from Ted's house, and I'm maybe like 45 minutes away or less. So so that one's like super convenient for us. Yeah, and also like I like have no desire really to go to any of the other like pop cons. There's not much draw for me. Like I don't really play video games.
Yeah,
I don't read comic books anymore. I am so grateful for good comic book movies and shows that we're getting, because it scratches that itch for me.
Yeah, and it kind of distills it down. Yeah, I understand that for sure. Yeah, I am still a very avid, comic reader, and so I definitely like San Diego Comic Con as far as the popular ones go. But definitely the video game ones. That's one of those areas. It's not that I don't like video games. I absolutely would play video games if I had the mental bandwidth and focus to be able to do it. And I will occasionally catch the really, really great ones. But yeah, I think I definitely like a good comic convention or a toy convention. I'm a huge collector, and so I like going to those. But yeah, outside of that, I want to focus on the tabletop ones. Those are the ones that I really, really enjoy.
Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. I enjoy video games, and that's the problem, right? Like I want
Yeah.
it's so easy to just get on there and plug in and just not unplug, and I won't do anything else that needs doing. Like I was playing League of Legends for a while, and I just liked that game in particular because it ended, right? I
Yeah.
like more fightery games anyway. Like
Yeah.
oh, like growing up, I never really got into like RPGs and stuff like that. I mean, obviously, we're from that time when it was side scrollers and
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But even like when my friends started playing more like the RPGs, I still had no interest. Like for me, it was like Mortal Kombat, Street
Oh
Fighter,
yeah.
or
There's
like the side
there's a Mortal
scrollers.
Kombat movie coming soon too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm still going to watch it.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's the same with the D&D movie, right? Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
we
that's
don't know
it.
how it's gonna go, but we'll watch it.
Well, I mean, it's just been kicked around for so long, and I think it either way, it's fascinating to see how Wizards of the Coast is really trying to build a franchise here, and it's not just a tabletop game at this point in time. They're trying to branch out into video games. They're trying to branch out into movies and television, and a lot of times when companies do that, the first efforts at that are maybe not the
Yeah.
highest quality, and so we can have our fingers crossed. I know that the cast and the creative talent that they have currently together for the movie, they've had about 5 different iterations of directors and writers and everything else like that. But if this one sticks, it's definitely got at least a little bit of a chance because of the people involved, I think. And then some of the video games that I'm seeing, it's I think that Dark Alliance has come a long way from the really bad GoPro trailer that they had a year ago. So yeah, fingers crossed. I think it's a good time to be a fan of Dungeons and Dragons and all of these games because we are experiencing such a boom. And thinking through 10 years ago, especially 20 years ago, it would have been just so impossible to think that you would have an actual movie on the way that has that kind of a talent attached to it, and all of that. And so yeah, it's fingers crossed. I'm cautiously optimistic. We'll see how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully they get fans of the game involved, like
Yeah.
that are in in that space because there's enough of them at this point.
Yeah, they're everywhere.
Yeah.
I remember my wife and I when this was really right around the time that Episode 3 of Star Wars was being released. We actually went to Indianapolis for Celebration 3, that Star Wars convention that they held there, and it was we were going into a room and they had this it's a little underwhelming, to be honest. They had a little projector set up, casting on a wall, and it was just cycling through Star Wars pop culture references. And so my wife and I had this thing back then that we would always, anytime we heard a Star Wars reference somewhere where it didn't seem like it belonged, we would look at each other and just simply say, "It pervades." And that really has transitioned at this point in time to Dungeons and Dragons pervades. And so there's D&D references everywhere. You don't even have to look that hard for them anymore. So yeah, it really is a part of the zeitgeist, and we're all benefiting from that. If we're fans of this stuff, we're benefiting from it greatly, and it's a wonderful thing to see.
So, can you tell us more about DemiPlane for people that aren't familiar with it?
Yeah, absolutely. So DemiPlane is a solution that is really aiming to be, the play experience for what you're doing with these games. And we provide video conferencing, screen sharing, voice chat, text chat. We have things like shared journaling and notes. And so, in a lot of ways, we are, we're kind of taking a step back and saying, what would Discord be like that if it was purpose built for tabletop role playing games? And so, this is looking at it like this experience of what we're doing. We're providing all those things, and it seems. Even the first time that I heard about DemiPlane and met Peter and Travis, and they were kind of walking me through what was going on. When you read about that on paper, about what it's doing, I was kind of like, I don't know if I don't know if I see that yet. But then it was, I played in a game in DemiPlane with both of them. We were actually playing a Star Wars 5th edition. There's a pretty popular conversion out there that people are playing Star Wars 5th edition D&D. And so we were playing a game like that. And I was Ryder Thorn, a resurrection of my character from the old D6 days. And we took out IG-88 at one point during that little mini campaign. But as we were playing, it became so apparent to me just how wonderful of a foundation and starting point it is to have all of those things in one place, and to be available for people to come together. Because as we've seen with the pandemic, online play is booming, and that's where everyone is turning to play these games at this point. And so as we're starting to see that, being able to get into this adventure portal where everyone can see each other on video, talk, they can text chat, the party can talk to themselves without the GM seeing it. The GM can request roles from players where not even the player that made the role knows what they got, and so it's like, all of those little features and those little bits of polish that kind of bring that together into that play experience. It's really something to be experienced, and not to just read about. So I encourage everybody to register at demiplane.com and give this a try, because if you're currently using Zoom for your role-playing sessions, this is something that it's not going to take too long for you to see that you're going to want to use this instead of Zoom. You're going to want to use this instead of Discord because of the convenience of what's happening. And this is just the starting point. Like, we've only been at this for a few months actually at this point, and the team is moving at a rapid pace. And that's something that I am thrilled to see, at the agility of our team at this point. So there's going to be a lot more to come with this. And then one other piece that I forgot to emphasize a little bit there in the beginning, because I have been really, really thankful to have, for the last several years, especially, I can find a group to play with pretty easily, right? Because I just have this umbrella of individuals who I know play a whole lot of these games, and so it's pretty easy to call someone up and say, hey, let's play. But DemiPlane also offers matchmaking and the ability to find groups and the ability to play in paid games, because we're seeing the rise of the professional game master out there. And so our platform supports that. And then, it also allows for a feedback loop at the end of a session, in addition to being able to tip your game master and that kind of thing. Because I remember before the pandemic, we would come together and play, and I would bring $10 a session and just give that to the person who was running the game and who was hosting, where they could make sure that they were buying me snacks. I never could talk them into chicken wings because I guess they thought that would end up on the books somehow. But yeah, the chips and all the other things that you eat. So this is a way to kind of replicate that kind of experience. And so just like you get into a car for Lyft or Uber, and you're on the ride with that person, if you enjoyed that experience and you're tipping your driver, there's a way that you can do that also through DemiPlane. And we've seen a really great response to that, even in a short time, where people are, running those kinds of games, and people are generating some supplemental income and everything else. And just, DemiPlane being able to facilitate that for them, in addition to any, free games that you're wanting to play out there, and kind kind of putting that all into that single experience where you can focus on the players, where the focus really needs to be when you're playing these games, especially online these days.
So, how did you connect with Travis and Peter? Peter, did they kind of poach you and headhunt you, or did you find them?
You might hear my new beagle. I've got a rescue beagle, so I apologize in advance if you hear a whole lot of barking, because he has not learned not to bark at the worst moments yet. So that's Bandit, if anybody's
We're
wondering.
kind of pet friendly here anyway,
Yeah,
so
that's excellent. So yeah, no, it was definitely no kind of poaching situation or anything of the like. Actually connected with them through I'll give a shout out to Andrew Strother, Roll for Persuasion podcast. He had interviewed Travis on his podcast a while back. And I think I can't remember if he interviewed me before that or after that, but either way, Andrew had just simply said, "Hey, I think you two should meet each other." Kind of mutual friend kind of situation, and so met Travis pretty shortly after that. And then Travis, brought Peter into the discussion just to show me what was going on with DemiPlane and what they had going. And so I've found that over the last several years, especially, I have ended up getting a lot of just kind of friendly pings of like, "Hey, we're thinking about doing something, want to like you seem like you know something about this space, like want to get your take on it," and so as Peter and Travis were reaching out about that, they were showing me some of it, but then we got genuinely we got to talking about our play experiences, and that's where I was talking about Star Wars and how much that I loved that, and how much nostalgia I had for that West End Games version of the game, and I loved the Saga edition of that too. And so then they said, "Well, hey, we've been playing a lot of this 5th edition Star Wars. Do you want to come play with us?" So it really did. It kind of started out as like, "Hey, want to let you see what we've got going here at DemiPlane," but then it became like, "Hey, let's play some of these games together," and we got to know each other through that way. And so then on my side of that, I knew that I had started thinking through, "Hey, what's going to be next for me after fandom?" For a little while at that point, and I wasn't in any kind of rush whatsoever. Again, it was a great experience there at fandom, but again, there are just seasons for everything, and I was essentially seeing that, hey, this season isn't going to last forever, and what are my options as I start to think through what is next for me. And I think that the big thing for me is that I have a strong bias towards action, and I am always looking over that next horizon, and what's next, and what challenges can I tackle and everything else. And as I was at fandom, number one, you're going to have challenges no matter where you are. Challenges are always going to come. We were talking about some of our challenges before we even went live here, Dave, but challenges are going to come no matter what. And so then I think it becomes a question of what kinds of challenges are you working through in your job and any kind of situation you're in. And so in my time at fandom, it was like, "Hey, these challenges are coming. I don't maybe enjoy the challenges that I'm tackling today as much as I did the challenges in those earlier days, where you're making something new out of nothing, and all of that." And so I think that all of those factors kind of came together, and then seeing how firm of a foundation that DemiPlane already had in place, Travis and Peter, how on the pulse they are with what is needed in this space, it was very exciting to me. And so yeah, all of that kind of combined to provide a really good opportunity, and I felt like the time was right, the season was right for me to move on to some of those new challenges.
Before Demiplane presented itself, was that kind of like a scary moment for you? Because like I think you were like a rocket scientist or something before, um, and the RPG space isn't known for being super lucrative from a career standpoint. So, I take it you came from a career where you're probably doing fairly well for yourself, and then you kind of like, from what my understanding is, you kind of lucked into D&D Beyond, or not lucked into, you made D&D Beyond happen, right? And in a place where it may not have happened otherwise, which brought you into the RPG space.
Yeah. So first, I wasn't a rocket scientist, but that is really funny, and I'm going to tell my wife that you said that. But I was working in the defense and aerospace industry, as well as the medical industries. In a Fortune 500 electronics manufacturing company. So very different than what I'm doing today, for sure. Printed circuit board is not the same kind of thing as rolling some of these dice, but yeah, it was I was on a good track. Things were going well. I was probably en route to being the youngest VP at that company's history. So yeah, it was definitely a good situation. But I remember I was in my mid 30s, and I said, hey, I don't know if I see myself doing this for 30 more years, until I retire. And so then that's when I kind of said, hey, this video game company, Curse, because back in those days I did play video games. This video game company had jumped into my backyard. They had moved the corporate headquarters from Silicon Valley into Huntsville, here, Alabama. And I said, hey, I owe it to myself to see if they want to hire somebody. So then, sure enough, submitted a resume. I got hired pretty soon after that, and I was working on something that was not D&D or tabletop related at all ahead of that. And yeah, started D&D Beyond in that situation. And the good news was I was able, when I made that change, and this is where I'm trying to even tell my kids this now as they're getting closer to college aged and everything else, is that you just never know where life is going to take you. And what I can say is that 10 years that I spent working in defense and aerospace, and I got hired initially as an office supply buyer in the purchasing department, and I revolutionized the company by being the first person to ever order office supplies online instead of from a catalog. So it's like, hey, this wasn't like super intense things, but being able to go from that entry level position to becoming in charge of 50 projects at one time within the IT department, and all of that, and really any job in between there. I worked in virtually every department. At one point, I was a Lean Six Sigma coordinator. I had a master black belt, is what they call it, certification in that, and I got to see every part of the business. And so this is where that experience was invaluable, and there's no way that D&D Beyond would have happened without me going through that, because then it was like, hey, I know about business, but then I also know about these games because I've played them for decades, and they're pretty much oxygen to me. And so being able to combine those, thankfully I was able to financially take care of the family when I made that jump, because of that pedigree that I'd been able to kind of build up over that other career that I had. And so yeah, like as I started thinking about what was next for me, following fandom, one of the things that I really thought about was, hey, whatever is next, there's going to be risk involved. There's always risk involved when you make changes like this. But I would love to get into a situation where, I can get in on the ground level of something, and then, maybe a few years down the road, be able to be in a point where I can, then just do literally whatever I wanted after that. And if that is open a pub that has like a geek Cracker Barrel where you get to come in and eat and you can buy games while you're there, I can do that. If I want to start a parody theatrical musical company that performs shows at Gen Con, I could do that. If I want to, just buy an RV and drive across, the U.S. and stop in different places and live like that, I could do that. So really, what I was thinking through is like whatever I did next, I want it to have that kind of potential that I could get there a few years down the road. And, the last 15, 20 years of my working life, be able to be kind of in command of my own destiny. And I know that a lot of people don't get that chance. And by the way, if we don't do what we want to do here at DemiPlane, I'm not going to have that chance. But I love betting on myself, and I love betting on Peter and Travis and what we've got cooking.
I would say you're not going to have that chance this time, but
Yeah.
this is only another chapter in the story. Who knows where it'll go one way or the other.
Absolutely. We'll see.
We have a cross intersection that I did not know about. So in my early 20s, I sold business and office supplies, maintenance and office supplies over the phone. And it was super swarmy. And you might have even gotten some of these calls. Hey, Adam, you're tougher than Reese than Bill Clinton. And then we would like try and get you to buy like these really overpriced light bulbs. Yeah. And we'd give you like a clock radio that would even send to your home address.
That's
and like,
it.
As you bought more stuff, we would send you better and better things.
Yeah. It was really, really something when they called it MRO buyer. And I was this MRO buyer there at the company. And I did it for a couple of weeks because that's how they trained me to do it. And I was going through this catalog, and I would get on the phone and I would tell, it's like, no, I am talking about part number 1, 2, 3, 4, and I'm like listing off these 16 number, part numbers for staplers and things like that. And I am just like, hey, are you aware that there is the internet now?
Yeah.
So,
that was the crazy. Worst job. That was the worst job I ever had. I would leave there and my head would be just like,
Well, it's like the constant rejection too,
Oh yeah. And listen, I've run 90-pound jackhammers all day. I've worked around hot asphalt and done all kinds of like grueling physical work, and nothing drained me like that did.
Yeah. I mean, I've done a good bit of that manual labor too. I think everybody should if they're able to do it, because there are a lot of lessons to be learned there. But yeah, it was like, I absolutely agree with you. I would rather do those kind of jobs a lot of the time than some of those that I've had to have along the way. But kind of to your earlier point, like that's what makes us who we are, and all of those bits of experience are the things that kind of put together the tapestry of us. And so I wouldn't trade it for anything. And I genuinely do. I don't want to sound too trite when I say this, but my wife kind of gets irritated with me occasionally when she asked me how I'm doing or something. I say, this is the best day of my life. And like there are like, today is probably the best day of my life, because, it's like we can't really look backwards. So we just got to look forward. And there's so much possibility out there, and there's so much joy to be had. And even in tough times like we're experiencing right now, it really is, we can really get through those things, and we can persevere if we can think about it in those terms, that things can get better, and kind of that hope, and that that concept that opportunity is out there is such a driving force in my own life.
So I'm going to jump into the chat and grab some of these questions.
Okay.
Dave Rosser here is going to grill you. He's got a whole barrage.
All right. Sounds good.
Is there a general chat or forum not related to the existing game, but for the community conversation? This is the first question.
For DemiPlane, I'm assuming he's saying that. Yeah. And so at this point in time, we have a Discord community, and we do push people to Discord to have those conversations. And that might seem a little counterintuitive, but we don't see it as that at all. Like we see Discord is doing what they are doing well. And essentially it was like, hey, we've got Slack that is doing this instant messaging thing for businesses in particular out there, which I saw this week that they made a move where they're trying to go a little outside of business, which was a weird one. But Slack has done this really well for business, and then Discord comes along and it's like, hey, what if you had Slack for gaming? And I think they've done a phenomenal job with that, in the video gaming space and everything else. But they're not necessarily doing, and they do servers and they do general chat like that. And so DemiPlane, what we're doing with our chat is really tying it to these tabletop game experiences themselves. And so yeah, you can join our Discord, and that's where that discussion is happening. That's where you can ask questions, find out more about the platform, and that would be the place to do it.
Also, Dave wants to know, can you share any cool features you're planning on?
Oh wow, yeah. So tough to talk about the future right now because as Master Yoda says, always in motion the future is. With that, what I can say is that we are committed. What we talk about almost on a daily basis is we're committed to making every part of playing the game better. And the way that we look at this is we look at it as before session, in session, and after session. And so that might seem like that's common sense to think about it, but really what I'm getting at is, before session, if you're looking for a group, you can do that through matchmaking. If you're trying to prep for the game, there are going to be features that are going to support that. While you're playing, of course, you got all the video voice, tasks, shared journaling, all of those. We do have, a very beta phase of dice rolling at the moment, and there will be more tools to support gameplay over time. And then after the session, staying in touch with each other. And I know that over the years I've used things like Slack to try to bridge that gap between like, hey, we just ended this session, but I still want to talk to the other players, and maybe I want to talk to those other players without the GM hearing it because I want to surprise him with this brilliant plan we're going to have. And DemiPlane is going to support all of those things all in one place, which is a big part of that. And so I know that that's a little bit of a non-answer, but I think in a few months, a lot of it's going to become a lot clearer. And just know that the overall goal is that we are looking at all three of those parts of the overall gameplay experience before, during, and after. And we're going to continue to add features that are going to make that better and better.
Dave also wants to know, are you guys hiring?
Not as of today, but we'll see. Keep your eyes peeled for the next few months. We'll see what happens there.
So here's another question from Dave, and this is one I was going to actually ask anyway, and that is, any API integration with like D&D Beyond, Roll20, or whatever.
Yeah, so we definitely love that idea, and nothing that we can share at this point in time, but we are looking for bot integration of various kinds. At the moment, we get this question a decent amount about is DemiPlane going to have a VTT, and we're not really focused on providing a VTT at this point for a couple of reasons. I would say probably the first reason is because a new VTT is popping up at this point on a weekly basis. I would say at least, like I see somebody hitting Reddit with, "Hey, check out my new VTT."
There's a lot of them: Shard, Astral, Foundry.
Yeah,
Fantasy
Owlbear
Grounds.
Rodeo. Yeah. Just all kinds of things popping up all over. And so, we don't necessarily want to reinvent any wheels there. And so, we're not going to be focused on it. Number two reason is we're also seeing we have some very compelling data. And I've personally seen over the last, 5 years or so that there are a lot of games now that are transitioning more to theater of the mind, and especially as the pandemic has come on, even the way that VTTs are being used is becoming different. And what I mean by that is a lot of times people aren't connecting, even if you're using a VTT out there, you're not connecting. Every player is not connecting to that VTT. A lot of times in the online space, you have a single person game master or somebody who's kind of officiating there, running that VTT and then screen sharing that. And so this is one of the reasons that we made sure we had screen sharing in, really quickly here from the beginning. And so with DemiPlane, anything that you want to share your screen for, you're able to do that in the platform now. But as we go forward, we definitely love the idea of integration wherever we can find it. And I can say that we are committed to trying to reduce the amount of tabs that you have open and the different places that you have to click and go. And so that's a major, major goal for us. And so I imagine that will include some kind of integration at some point. So yeah, we'll be able to share more about that in the months to come as well.
I love Beyond 20 because I don't have to learn roll 20 as a player
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
play D&D. I mean, I blame you personally. You've kind of ruined me for a lot of other games with D&D Beyond. It's like,
yeah,
how can I even play this game? I can't just click my way through
right.
uh, character creation and doing things. D&D Beyond really has made gaming so much easier. Um, how do you personally feel about VTTs yourself? We personally hardly ever use them.
Yeah, yeah, and by the way, like I'm actually not, I can't share, all the raw data for this, but this is me when I made that statement earlier that we're seeing a lot of people are not using them in the way that I feel like a good portion of the community feels like people use VTTs. Like we are actually starting to see data on that front. I think a lot of people are starting to trend in a direction like what you're talking about for yourself there, Dave, where they're hardly using them, or if they use them, they're using them in different ways. And I would theorize to some degree, and this is not me throwing shade at all. For instance, I wanted a VTT on D&D Beyond forever, and we never got there. So I'm not acting like it's an easy thing. I think
Yeah.
is what I'm trying to establish there. But I would say that that there are many, many gaps in what the VTTs out there do, and there are steep learning curves. You were kind of joking that you didn't have to learn Roll 20 because of this Chrome extension,
Yeah.
and that is something that a lot of people are feeling, and so we are seeing more and more games that are going more into a theater of the mind kind of situation, or kind of VTT lightweight, like I said, where you're screen sharing and that's kind of how you're accomplishing that. And so personally, what I would say is that I stream a lot of games these days, and as I'm streaming, probably a totally different approach than I would for maybe more of a home game. I will use them occasionally for home games in order to mix it up, and a lot of that has to do with my players. So if the players are wanting something more tactical where they're using miniatures and those kind of things, then I will use them for those purposes, because at the end of the day, I know that the dungeon master or game master is a player at the table too, and they need to enjoy themselves, and I need to enjoy myself when I'm running a game. But one of the ways that I enjoy myself is if I'm entertaining the players. And so if the players are really into tactical combat, I will use them. But I will say that many of my games are starting to go away from using them as well. And then streamed games, it's not working very well at all to try to use VTTs for those. A lot of times because of time constraints, you've got a stream that a lot of times these days lasting for just 2 hours. And so Mind Theater is really starting to come on. And like I said, unfortunately can't share all the sources there, but we definitely have some data to demonstrate that. I don't know if there's anything causal yet that we can derive from that, but there's definitely a correlation between more and more games moving online and kind of moving away from some of the grid there.
Yeah, I mean, me and Ted run games in our home groups that are online now, and we both have different approaches. Where he'll set up a separate camera and he's using physical stuff, terrain that he's made, and warlock and different things.
And that's all fun. Yeah.
Yeah, 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 and he'll have the minis there, and we'll point at the screen, and he's like, I have no idea what you're pointing at, and then he'll move the things around, or like I'll just I'll make some maps over on Dungeon Fog, and then I will just screen share them so that they kind of have a general idea. But most of our stuff is kind of like theater of the mind anyway. And anecdotally, like when we did Saver Dice, one of the complaints from Fantasy Grounds was that we didn't use enough of the features when we used the VTT. You used our VTT, which they got a fantastic product. It's just like I think streamers in general aren't really a good market for that product. The way we were playing the games.
Yeah.
Because I also know people that will use VTTs like that in their home games, and they'll project it someplace, and
Yeah.
and so like people are using this stuff in different ways that weren't initially intended, like you said.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I do think that, again, one of the things that is absolutely true of players in this space is that we will take what we have and make the best of it. Right. And so, I think that that's one of the reasons, it's one of the things that I'm excited about with DemiPlane is I think that we have an opportunity here with a lot of really, sharp business acumen, but then also, experience in the space, having this wonderful hindsight of what works and what doesn't, from some of my former experience and everything else, and being able to start from a place of like, hey, what would this be like if we didn't have to just make do with what we had? And so being able to look at it that way and start with this strong foundation that we're starting with is really exciting to me. And I think that we are going to continue to see just a growth toward this concept of using a little bit more of that theater of the mind and that kind of approach. But at the end of the day, yeah, Fantasy Grounds has got a great product. Love those folks over there.
Yeah, and also Doug Davison is just an awesome human being.
He is one of the greatest human beings I've ever met. He genuinely is. And so it's like, with that, I get it. I think that there are going to be some groups that just dive into a solution like that, and it is going to literally be the best thing that they could possibly have for their games. And obviously Fantasy Grounds is doing well, and so that holds true. But I do think that especially when you get into streaming and some of that, we are getting to a place where those games are different. And again, this is not a slight in any way, but groups that are trying to stream a home game on streams just aren't finding success by kind of the terms that a lot of people will define streaming success by. And so it comes down to like, hey, if you want to do that and you're not concerned about that kind of success, more power to you. I hope you love it and enjoy yourself. But it's becoming a different kind of entertainment, and I have a different mindset when I'm playing or running stream games than I do when I am playing in those home games. And by the way, I enjoy them both quite a bit. And that's what I love about this hobby as well, is there is just so much room for so many different kinds of experiences within this umbrella of what is tabletop role playing. And so yeah, I think that I think we're going to continue to see that evolve in that kind of trending direction.
So Pull the Lever has a question. Will the
I know
shared
that guy.
screen allow me to share a live battle cam of a 3D terrain built in DemiPlane?
Okay, so will the screen sharing allow you to share a live battle cam? Well, if you have that set up, I hear my beagle out here is being very loud. I apologize.
No worries.
But yeah, so if you have that as a feed that is coming onto one of your screens, then yes, it will. It'll work just like screen sharing in Zoom or Google Meet or any of those places. Now, if that question, and I may be getting a little bit more technical here, if that question is getting into like, native video source like NDI, kind of feed and that kind of thing, not doing that at this point. That's several steps away because there's some complexity to that. And it's one of the reasons that places like Zoom have stopped doing it and everything else. But I do think, Microsoft Teams and some of those, applications will do it. But yeah, so as long as that feed is happening somewhere on one of your screens, then yeah, screen sharing will work with it.
So Dave also asked the question: is when we go back into person gaming, any plans to support that, like pass and play or the table support? Will this cross over as a tool that's useful at your table?
We don't have concrete things that I can share too much on that, but what I will tell you is that well, I will certainly answer this. Yes, we have plans to integrate with the physical experience for sure, because we think that the value of what DemiPlane is providing a lot of this time is, that ability to have feedback about your game. And so when we get back into in-person or stores or conventions or any of those things, DemiPlane will still work perfectly fine for those games. You will still be able to, kick off an adventure. You'll still be able to take shared notes in a single place. The game master will still be able to assign tasks and quests and things like that within that. You'll still be able to roll the dice. You'll still be able to close those sessions out and vote on a most valuable player award, most valuable adventurer award, for who you think did the coolest thing during that session, and you'll be able to tip and provide feedback for the game master. Those are all things that are going to work with that physical experience, in-person experience too, and there's plenty more to come from that. And so basically what I would say is that this story, and I love this story. So we had a group that was a pre-existing group that joined our platform and started playing together. And the first time that they played together on our platform, some feedback, and that feedback comes through anonymously, and it's shared with the game master anonymously. Now, obviously, you can self-identify, in there if you wanted to, but it was feedback that like, hey, game master, so and so really takes charge anytime there is a decision to be made, and really kind of railroads things into a place where they want to. And a few of us other players are feel like we can't really insert ourselves into that situation, and just wanted to let you know that, because I think it would be more fun if others could kind of jump in on that. And this is feedback. This is a group that had been playing together for a while. I don't know if they had shared that feedback in the past, but the chances are they probably hadn't, or it probably would have been addressed by now. And so just the idea that you had this platform that will allow you to share that in a non-invasive, safe way, is something that if I'm game mastering, I want to hear that, because my goodness, if that's really the case and I was not understanding or recognizing that, you better believe I will be able to make subtle adjustments that are going to improve the game for everyone. And so all of that is going to apply perfectly great to the physical situation, and some other fun stuff that we have in store too in the future.
That's like a piece of advice we often give, is like, touching base with your players and
Yeah.
and just talking to each other. So that is a super useful tool.
Sometimes that can be intimidating though. It's like I know that when I ask my players very directly, like, hey, do you have any feedback, that there's this human nature. Now I also surround myself with a lot of people, I married one of them, that I am I'm welcoming of feedback, good, bad, or indifferent. And so this probably doesn't apply to me personally because of my personality, but there are many personality types out there, and sometimes that's intimidating. It's like, hey, do you have any feedback about the session? And then people just don't want to share that because they feel like they're going to hurt feelings. They feel like they're going to cause conflict or whatever else, and being able to do it in that safe way is a really really important part of what we're doing here too.
Yeah, it's super helpful. I was poking around on the site and I didn't find a way to pay for anything.
There is a way to pay. That anytime that so when you're setting up an adventure,
Uh,
you can mark that as a paid adventure, and at that point in time, you actually will be entering your payment details there. And then if you are joining a paid adventure, then at that point in time, when it comes up with hey, I'm joining this paid game, it's also going to prompt you for all your payment details. And then finally, if you're in even a free game, it's going to prompt you, would you like to tip game master? And again, this is a very non-intrusive way to do this. It's not like sitting at the table when you've got 12 people at Gen Con, and you feel bad because you see people are tipping and you're not tipped. Like it's nothing like that. It's all digital. No one sees what's happening, and so you can tip the game master. And at that point in time, if you haven't set up your payment information, it also is going to prompt you and walk you through that process.
does that happen at games at conventions where people will tip?
I have seen a few of those. It's far more likely
Uh,
that that happens up front though, right? I remember the first time I went to Origins. This was such a fascinating thing to me, and I still want to do it, and I haven't been able to. But you go to the huge D&D ballroom out there where Baldman is operating most of the time, and you look up to the balcony, and those balcony games are going on, and the balcony games have I don't even know what the prices are, but it's like $500
uh,
a seat or something like that. And but you get like 2 or 3 days solid of you're starting at like first level and you're ending at 20th level, and you're literally playing like 12 hours a day or something up there. It
I
sounds
didn't
like a
even know
pretty
that was a
intense.
thing.
Yeah, it's an intense experience by some of the best DMs up there. So that kind of thing definitely happens. Typically it is happening more at that
Yeah.
ticketing level, and so DemiPlane will kind of support either one of those. And the things that we've discovered is people like those tips, and I will say that
Wait a minute, did you just say people like money?
yeah, well, yeah, but I'm saying people giving the money like it a lot of
Yeah,
time
yeah.
too. Like that's the feedback that we're giving, is that there are many times where I have played with a game master that just knocked it out of the park, and I love the experience that I had, and I would love to do it, but that is a little bit strange to just be like, hey, here's a 20,
Yeah.
like as you're walking out the door. But this is a way that it can at least normalize the possibility of giving it. And again, it's not a requirement, and no one sees whether you tipped or not. But this is a way that it allows for people who want to reward those game masters who are putting in a little more effort. It's a way that you can do that. And what we have discovered is that the people both giving the tips and obviously receiving the tips really really like the feature.
So that's not actually what I was asking, but it does answer some questions. No, like I don't see a way to upgrade my account. Like there's no
Oh,
subscription.
oh, oh, oh,
There's
oh,
no way to
yes.
pay DemiPlane.
Well, DemiPlane is making money through the paid games and that tipping process. So
Okay.
we take a very minor processing fee, and I'm probably going to get some of this math a little bit mixed up here, but essentially, if it is like $10 a seat for a game, so a game master can come in there and say, hey, it's going to be $10 per person, then there are going to be taxes and all of that are kind of applied to that,
Yeah.
and so it's going to charge 1086. I'm just kind of making up some numbers there. DemiPlane's going to get a dollar out of that, $10 at that point in time, for the part of the processing fee, and then game master is getting all of the rest of that. So it's a very very minor percentage. And of course we're going to be looking for other ways to add some other kinds of revenue in the future. But at this point in time, that's what it is. But yes, using the platform at this point entirely free, and the only time that any kind of money comes in there is when you are working with those paid games and any kind of tipping that you're doing.
Yeah, I always like whenever I see a new business, I like the entrepreneur in me was like, okay, how does this work?
Yeah.
Like and like we talk. I mean, I won't get into it deeply here because I don't know that people actually care about that. But but it's something I've always been interested in. Like when we have discussions behind the scenes and we're looking at other companies, like Geek and Sundry would talk about a lot about them a lot. Like how does it like someone on staff would be like, how does that work? And I'm like, I don't think it does because like well because you got like I don't know, are they still around or have they finally dissolved? Like it's one of those things like you just follow the money and see if it's actually something that's sustainable or not.
Yeah, and I think that ultimately, yeah, I mean, that's a long discussion for another time. But I think the
Yeah.
things that I can tell you is that we again, I'm very, very happy with the amount of business acumen that is here in this company as we're starting out, and naturally we have to have a plan that is sustainable, from a revenue perspective. And yeah, I think that picture is going to become a lot clearer over time. But the thing that I can also share with you is that we're also very firm believers that we want things to be priced at the right level to be as pro fan and pro customer as it possibly can be. And so, yeah, what we're currently providing is a really, really good deal for people out there who are wanting to get involved with professional game mastering, but then also with just running a game with friends. We got so many groups that are currently doing this. We're really seeing a lot of growth. And we got a lot of groups who are doing this, and they are just paying $10 a person because they are just so appreciative that their game master, a lot of them are talking their game master into making them paid games where they can give back a little bit to those game masters who are prepping for a few hours, every week, and providing a balm in some of these troubling times.
Yeah, I've dipped my toe into to paid DMing, and I feel like I've hit the top of the mountaintop. So I don't know if I want to do it ever again.
Well, maybe you haven't found the right group, Dave.
Well, no, not in that sense. Like so, like we did D&D in a castle, and we were fortunate enough to be like we did one of the rounds where one of the few rounds where we actually got to have our own castle. So
Yeah.
essentially, like each one of those tables is like a $30,000 table. We didn't get
Yeah.
paid $30,000,
Yeah.
but when you calculate how much people spent to be there and to travel, that's like a $30,000 table.
Yeah.
So I feel like that was the mountaintop, right? Like unless I can
Yeah.
find a bunch of millionaires to DM from, or
I mean, that's definitely, that's definitely a high point. But there's also something to be said for, $50 to $100 a week,
yeah,
is not bad money, especially if you were going to play the game anyway. And so, yeah, I think we're going to see an interesting growth of that. We already are. It's there. I think that there just haven't been platforms that facilitate it well enough, and that's absolutely something that we're planning to do.
no, it's definitely been happening, and we've seen the rise. I want to say over the last 5 years of the professional DM, and also like there's ones that everyone kind of knows about and they've like seen online, but there's also been a bunch that are just like quietly doing their thing,
Yep.
and they make a living doing it. And it's pretty busy. There was just recently an article that was going around with Megan Hardy does Outschool D&D, and she's been doing it for a long time. And and she makes a decent amount. Also works a lot, but so the paid DM is definitely a thing for someone if they have their chops.
It's definitely a way to have some supplemental income. I could certainly see that, and I think that some people can develop enough of an audience that it can be a day job of at least eventually.
Yeah.
And so yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I mean, what I can say is that I am going to drop the $35 or whatever it's going to require to watch Black Widow the moment that it comes out on Disney Plus. I'm probably not in a theater, at least
Yeah.
at that point, but it's like, I will drop $35 to have 2.5 hours of entertainment without even thinking about it, because it's something I'm very passionate about and something that I love. And I think that the same could be said for, a lot of times people are paying for experiences in today's world, because, like for instance, I've got a lot of stuff behind me. I'm a collector. I love action figures and, toys and all that. At the end of the day, I would, if you said I could spend $100 on some super rare collectible that is going to sit on my shelf, or if I could spend $100 having a great time with my friends, I'm going to choose the great time with my friends every single time. And so I think that, this is something that we're just going to continue to see a lot more of, and I'm pretty excited that people will be able to give back to one another in that way. And I think that it is going to be fascinating to see people who can make careers of this over time. And again, we've kind of talked about this a good bit here toward the end. This is not a requirement for DemiPlane. Like, this is
It's
people
just
can come
another
in and play.
feature.
Yeah, it's another feature, and we want to facilitate that where people want it. But really, we want to just make that play experience as smooth as it can be. We want to help people. We want to maximize discoverability, so we want it to be. For instance, I was thinking the other day that I've had this vampire book for a long time, and I
Yeah.
have never been able to play fifth edition with anybody. I've never been able to talk somebody into it. It's not that I don't know people that play vampire, it's schedules, it's all these kind of things. DemiPlane's a platform where I know that if I went and put up that I was looking for players for a vampire fifth edition game, that I would fill that game, and I would maybe discover some new friends. And so I love that aspect of helping people discover games, helping people discover each other, and helping people stay connected through that process.
You guys are streaming some games now, so I imagine you're using it through DemiPlane and
Yeah,
then kicking that out to your stream.
yeah. So we've got Heroes of the Plains on Tuesday nights at 6 p.m. Pacific, and that is reuniting some pretty familiar characters, familiar to each other anyway, with Todd Kenrick dungeon mastering. And we've got Hope Lavelle, Jen Kretschmer, B. Dave Walters, Lauren Urban. Oh my goodness, I feel like Megan Kenrick, and then myself. And I think that I called everybody out there. But yeah, we've got a crew that is very used to playing with each other with some characters. A lot of them are in that Idle Champions of the Forgotten Realms video game.
Yeah.
And so we've kind of come back together and having a good old time. But yeah, we're using DemiPlane for that. And it's already, we're already seeing some really great things that it has been doing to enhance that experience.
Nice. Well, we're just past the hour mark by a little bit here. I won't hold you hostage anymore. I want to thank you for hanging out with me. Final
Yeah,
thoughts?
always a pleasure. Yeah, no, check out DemiPlane at demiplane.com. We are just getting started, but you're going to see a lot there already where you can connect with each other. You can find, people to play with through matchmaking. You can play using video and voice and chat and share journaling. I got a question just yesterday where someone was like, well, wait a minute, like, I could be game mastering and then someone else could be taking notes, and then everyone would see those. And it's like, yes, that's the point. Like, it's all there. And so all of that for that play experience. And there is going to be much, much more to come. So keep follow us on social media at DemiPlane RPG, and I think all of the places, Twitter, Facebook, and on Twitch, you can catch our shows. There's also going to be more programming coming pretty soon on our Twitch channel. So lots and lots of things going on. Join the Discord to discuss with us, and keep your eyes peeled. Lots more to come in the next several months.
Yep. All the links are in the description, so you go check that out. Go sign up for a free account. Cost you nothing to check it out. And until
That's
next
it.
time, stay nerdy.